Just as her husband said another woman was pregnant with his second child, the wife's world shattered. She overheard him say he loved that other woman, but that he was also giving that woman a home, a child, and now a second baby. This was the same man she had sacrificed everything for. Years ago, a car accident she had to save him cost her the ability to have children. To keep his family happy, he adopted a child from an orphanage and presented the child as theirs, saving their marriage.
快抱一下。
陆家必须要杭州有个孩子才接受我，这孩子拯救了我和杭州的爱情，我要给他最好的一切。
Now the truth was far more brutal. Heartbroken, she called her grandfather, the city's richest man, the one she had defied to be with her husband.
爷爷就一直不同意你跟陆寒舟在一起，连首富千金的身份都不要。
都过去了。
好，那我现在派人把你接回来。
She told him she was finally ready to come home. Her grandfather was relieved but furious and reminded her of the sacrifices she'd made, giving up her status and raising a child with no blood relation. She promised to return in a week and vowed that after that, the woman who loved this man would be gone and the powerful heiress she was meant to be would come back. The next day, she went to enroll their daughter in school, only to be told her marriage certificate and household registration were fake.
您是不是弄错了？这些证件都是我丈夫亲自去办的，怎么可能是假的？
The system showed her husband was legally married to another woman, Sarah Thompson, and their adopted daughter was officially registered as theirs. The betrayal cut deeper. He hadn't just cheated, he had built a whole legal family behind her back. Rushing home to confront him, she overheard him on the phone telling a friend that his mistress was pregnant again and he couldn't leave her.
可是纸是包不住火的。如果有一天经理要是知道你一直在骗他，那他肯定会跟你断绝关系的。
那就永远不要让他知道。
The wife realized every moment of their life together had been a lie. She sat him down for dinner and calmly said she had something to discuss. He got a sudden call about a work emergency and rushed out, promising he'd be back soon. But she knew where he was going. Following him to the hospital, she found him at his mistress's bedside, the same woman from the school records. He was doting on her, putting a ring on her finger and telling her he loved her because she had given him a family. He callously added that the ring had to be taken off whenever he was with his wife, who he dismissed as an old flame. Devastated, the wife realized she was nothing more than a cover in her own life. Just then, he texted her that he'd be out of town for a few days but had a big surprise for her when he returned. Clenching her fists, she texted back that she had a big surprise of her own. She burned every photo of them together and declared she no longer wanted him. Just moments before she discovered the devastating truth. While packing to leave, she saw a social media post from his mistress showing him at a family restaurant with their daughter. He hadn't been on a business trip as he'd claimed, he was with his other family. The next second, he video called her, looking innocent.
这边风景真的不错，下次我们一家三口可以一起玩。
我看你刚才点赞了沈律师的朋友圈，别误会，我主要是想带安安吃。
He lied smoothly and said he was with his secretary and had just run into their daughter at summer camp. The daughter, coached by the mistress, even begged her mom not to blame the secretary for posting the photos. Her husband then reminded her of how she had stood by him when his family was in debt. He promised a big surprise for their anniversary in 3 days and told her he loved her. For a moment, she wavered, remembering the boy who swore he'd never lie and would love her forever. But then she remembered a past anniversary he had abandoned for an emergency meeting, leaving her to blow out the candles alone. A quick search revealed the mistress's post from that same night, a romantic candlelit dinner the husband had made for her. All the clues were there. 6 years of her life had been a lie. They were treating her like a fool. That's when she lit the match. Meanwhile, the husband felt a sharp pain in his chest, a dread that she had discovered everything. He announced he had to return immediately, but his mistress and their daughter blocked his way. Their daughter begged him not to ruin the anniversary surprise he'd planned for his wife. The mistress then told him all flights were canceled. Convinced by their lies, he decided to wait. 3 days later, on their 7th anniversary, he returned home with a bouquet of roses. She threw them to the floor. Unfazed, he smiled and told her to get changed for her real surprise. He led her to a grand hall transformed into a museum of their love filled with old friends and memories. He spoke about how she was the only one for him and presented the 100th love letter to complete the 99 he had written when they were young. As the crowd cheered for them to kiss and he leaned in, her phone buzzed with a text. Her application to cancel her household registration was complete. At that exact moment, the doors swung open. His mistress, holding their daughter's hand, walked in. As the husband lunged to embrace his mistress and their daughter, the wife was shoved aside and hit her head on a diamond-encrusted picture frame. It shattered, and she collapsed. At the hospital, the mistress tearfully blamed herself, but the husband reassured her, caressing her face. The wife, feigning unconsciousness, overheard him tell his pregnant mistress that he would never hurt her. He said he only kept his wife around because she was useful. The mistress then called him husband, and he asked her to say it again, kissing her as his real wife clenched her fists in silent fury. Later, the wife woke to find her husband at her bedside. She announced she was pressing charges against his mistress for assault. He dismissed it and said his mistress would never hurt her. The wife's voice broke as she told him she almost died and asked why he protected his mistress and their child instead of her. He tried to placate her with an offer to go on a trip, but she rejected him, exhausted by his lies. She reminded him of a time years ago when she was tired and he had carried her, and in that moment she had believed they were meant to be. Now she saw the truth. As she was about to expose everything, his assistant rushed in carrying a massive diamond-framed portrait of their wedding photo. His friends and family praised him for being a doting husband, unaware of the charade. The final blow came when their daughter rushed in and smashed the expensive portrait, shouting, "Wow, what a beautiful painting." In the chaos, the wife was struck by the falling frame and her head started bleeding. Without hesitation, the husband rushed not to her, but to shield his daughter, leaving his wife bleeding on the floor. In that instant, she knew it was over. "I give up on loving you," she whispered, as her world faded to black. Believing his mistress's lies, he ordered his men to beat his wife brutally, not knowing she was carrying his child. Just hours earlier at the hospital, she had confronted him for saving his secretary in an accident instead of saving her. He begged her forgiveness and swore it wouldn't happen again, saying he chose the secretary because she was protecting their other child. But the wife was shattered and asked who he would choose if he could only save one of them. He swore he'd always choose her, but she saw the lie in his eyes and told him to get out. After he left, a doctor delivered shocking news. She was 6 weeks pregnant. Because of an old injury, she'd been told she could never have children, and tears of joy streamed down her face. This baby felt like a miracle. Her joy was cut short when he stormed back in, grabbed her arm, and accused her of kidnapping his secretary. He refused to believe her denials and was convinced she was the only one with a motive to hurt his mistress. Calling her changed and disappointing, he left in a rage. The next thing she knew, she was tied and gagged on a cold warehouse floor. Her husband stood over her with his mistress, who tearfully claimed the wife had sent men to beat her. Believing the lie completely, he pointed at his wife on the floor and ordered his men to repay the injury tenfold. They kicked her relentlessly as she tried to scream that she was pregnant with their child, but the gag muffled her words. Her blood began to stain the sack she was lying on. One of the men noticed she was bleeding heavily, but her husband, completely deceived, ordered them to keep going. The mistress pretended to worry and suggested they stop, but he refused, furious that his wife had almost cost them their child. After a final brutal kick to her stomach, they left her for dead. With the last of her strength, she cut herself free with a shard of glass. Stumbling to her feet, covered in her own blood, she watched them walk away and let out a final, agonizing scream. She shrieked that he had killed their child and that she would never forgive him. He stopped dead in his tracks, his face twisting in horror as he finally understood what they'd done. As she lay bleeding on the warehouse floor, he heard her scream that he had killed their child. But his mistress quickly insisted it was a lie, just another trick. Pretending she'd lost a bracelet, the mistress went back inside and left him behind. She loomed over the battered wife and sneered that she was pathetic for losing a child that was never meant to be born. With a wicked laugh, she revealed the final shattering truth. The wife's other daughter, Anna, wasn't her biological child either, but the mistress's own daughter, a secret she'd kept for years. She then said she was pregnant again with his second child and promised to take everything. As a final act of cruelty, she stomped her high heel down on the wife's bleeding hand before walking away. The henchman called the wife too dirty to touch as they left her crawling across the floor in agony. Her grief turned to rage, and she vowed revenge for her murdered child. On the operating table, the doctor told her she'd miscarried and needed emergency surgery. The 6-week-old child she had just discovered was gone before it ever had a chance to live. While she fought for her life, he was at home playing happy family with his mistress and their daughter. The little girl, coached by the mistress, told him the new baby in mommy's tummy must be hungry. His mind flashed back to a time when his wife had asked if he wanted a boy or a girl. Back in the present, he coldly said either was fine since it wasn't his and his wife's child anyway. As he got up to go to the hospital, the little girl begged him not to leave, pleading for her mommy to stay. The mistress seized the moment, convincing him to stay for the child's sake. He agreed, unaware that the wife he had abandoned was now alone in a hospital bed, staring at the ultrasound of the child he'd helped kill. Her heart filled with nothing but a cold, burning need for vengeance. Clenching her fist, she picked up her phone and made a call, ready to begin her retribution. While his wife suffered, he played house with his mistress and their daughter, completely fooled by her lies. A loud knock echoed at the door and he panicked, thinking his wife had come back. He quickly hid the mistress and Anna in a storeroom before answering. It was the police, responding to his wife's report of intentional injury. He arrogantly dismissed the claim, demanded proof, and accused his wife of slander. After the officers left, the mistress emerged pretending to be terrified that his wife would retaliate. He promised to protect her and pulled her into a tight embrace. Back in her hospital room, the wife received a call from the police telling her that without evidence they couldn't press charges. Worse, her husband had accused her of defamation. The betrayal was total. She'd lost her child, and he was siding with the woman who caused it. As she stared at the ultrasound, grief and rage washed over her. Just as she was about to call him, a call came through. When she answered, it was the mistress's voice on the line, gloating that she and the husband already had 2 children. His voice called, "Sarah, bring me a towel," and the mistress responded, "Coming, darling," before hanging up. The wife shattered. Her child was gone, and her husband was already building a new life. As she crumpled in despair, a memory surfaced: a car crash from years ago. The mistress, drunk, had run over 2 people and begged her boyfriend to take the fall. That boyfriend was the real hero of the accident, the one who actually saved her husband's life, not the mistress. With this knowledge, her path became clear. She decided she would expose the truth and destroy them both.